we'll jump right into the 53-man roster. So I'm going to go ahead and share the 49ers website. They have a position-by-position breakdown of the initial 53-man roster. Let me start at the top. Hold on. I jumped the gun a little bit. So the quarterbacks, you have Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, and Brandon Allen. So Brandon Allen couldn't make it to picture day, unfortunately. But obviously Purdy the starter, Darnold the backup, and Brandon Allen will probably be the emergency quarterback on game days. At running back, we've got Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Ty Davis-Price, Jordan Mason, and Kyle Juszczyk. Juszczyk is the fullback, and then, they decided to carry 4 running backs this year. Honestly, I think the 49ers have a pretty solid running back room. Like Christian McCaffrey is like elite, top of the NFL food chain, I would say, in terms of like running backs. And then Elijah Mitchell is a pretty solid number 2 back. He's going to be the more in between the tackles guy. But one thing I'm looking for to see is if Ty Davis-Price or Jordan Mason can, steal that role from him, because I feel like Mason and Davis-Price are a little bit more durable, and the 49ers can count on them a little bit more than Mitchell. And another thing is Davis-Price has yet to like prove much. I know Mason has looked pretty good in a couple games, but as of late, he's been fumbling. I think he fumbled once or twice in the preseason, and I've heard he's fumbled a couple times in camp. So you definitely don't want to see that. Maybe that's why they have it listed, sort of in this order. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how that plays out. But Kyle Juszczyk, there's a chance that this might be his last year on the team because of financial reasons. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that moving forward. The wide receivers, we've got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, Ray McLeod, Danny Gray, and Ronnie Bell. One thing I was very interested to see was that Ray McLeod, obviously he made the team, and he is going to be playing week 1. So he was initially supposed to be out for 8 weeks. And I want to say that this happened like around the first preseason game. So it's been 4 weeks, and dude is like ready to catch like punts and return kicks. Like, I mean, okay, but he better not be fumbling the football if somebody hits that wrist. That's something that I would be concerned about. And, Ronnie Bell is listed, at least in terms of this, as, last on the depth chart. I really feel like Ronnie Bell really showed something in the preseason, especially against the Broncos. And, we'll see if he's able to continue to climb the depth chart. But he sort of reminded me of what maybe Jalen Hurd was supposed to be a couple years ago on the team. But, we'll move on to the tight ends. So George Kittle, Ross Dwelley, Braden Willis, and Charlie Warner. One thing that's sort of surprising here is that Cam Latu is not listed. He was the 3rd-round rookie out of Alabama, and Latu had sort of a rough camp, and he had a lot of dropping. He couldn't catch the football consistently. So the 49ers have placed him on IR, so that's going to be season ending, and he didn't make the team, so he's going to sort of get like the red shirt treatment. I'm trying, I know that there's got to be another 49er player recently who got that sort of that red shirt treatment. I know Aaron Banks, I don't think he went on IR, but he didn't really play his rookie season and then came back the following year and was able to, step into a starting role. I don't think Latu is going to be the 49ers long-term starter at tight end, especially with the fact that they restructured Kittle's contract. So, I mean, we'll see what the future entails for Latu, but he's definitely going to have to come into camp next year willing to fight, because I feel like he's sort of on the outside looking in for next year.
Is Latu on the practice squad or?
He's on IR. So I don't know if you're able to sign guys to the practice squad when they're on IR.
Sorry, I got distracted because I saw the Joker tattoo, which is really good on his arm right there.
Yeah, let's see if I can zoom in. Oh shit. Yeah, it is pretty good. He's got the Joker tattooed on one of his wrists, and then he's got Master Chief like on the other one.
Nice.
Or it might be on the same wrist, but just on the other side. But I feel like it's really cool. And then I know he's got like Calvin and Hobbes tattooed somewhere. But yeah, Kittle's tattoos are pretty cool. So next we've got the offensive line, and we've got Trent Williams at left tackle, Aaron Banks left guard, Jake Brendel center, Spencer Burford right guard, Colton McKivitz right tackle, and then your backups are Jalen Moore, John Feliciano, Matt Pryor, and Nick Zakel. So one player that I'm very shocked that didn't make the 53-man roster and got actually taken by, I want to say it was the Arizona Cardinals, was Ilm Manning. So just a couple of weeks ago, we had Grant Cohn on our show, and Grant was telling us that a player that really stood out to him during the Raider joint practices was Ilm Manning, and during the preseason, Ilm Manning had a lot of plays where it seemed like, man, he might be able to be a starting lineman in just a couple years. Like maybe if he takes some time to develop, but he looked like he could at least be a backup. And the 49ers decided to roll with the guys that they obviously chose. And I know Nick Zakel got it's kind of a surprise that he's still on the team, because it seemed like he was having a rough time, at least against the Raiders. I know that there was at least one play that I saw where he tripped over somebody else's foot, and people give him a hard time about it. But I mean, I'm just hoping that none of the starters go down, because I will not be easy with any. I mean, I won't be easy with Purdy under center, and it'll be tough to run the football if you don't have all 5 of these starters. And we'll see how McKivitz is replacing McGlinchey, but I'm hoping to see. I think we'll definitely see an upgrade in pass protection, because I don't think that was Mike McGlinchey's strong suit. You can see a whole lot of plays where McGlinchey's like, struggling, and we've went through a video like from 2020 of his struggles, and I wish Mike McGlinchey well on the Broncos, but it was time to move on. So let's see if Colton McKivitz can be an upgrade, maybe the same way that Tom Compton was in 2021 when McGlinchey went down. On the defensive line, we have Javon Kinlaw, another guy that people weren't certain was going to make the team. But I feel like Kinlaw, after the Raider game, started to improve. He just needs to keep his pad level down. But we'll see. I know he's not the starting defensive tackle. The starting defensive line you're going to see is actually, I believe it's going to be Drake Jackson, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, and Nick Bosa. So I actually wonder who the 49ers had to waive or are going to have to waive in order to include Nick Bosa in the list of names here. But let me just read them off. We've also got Cleveland Farrell, Kevin Givens, Robert Beal Jr., and Kalia Davis for the defensive line. Maybe it's similar to the whole Josh Jacobs situation that you were telling me about, Mike, where Jacobs doesn't technically count against the roster yet because he wasn't reporting to practice.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's possible.
I mean, yeah, it's possible. So linebackers, we've got Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, the two badasses right here. And then for, the third linebacking spot, we're going to have to see who will step up between Oren Burks and Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. And then I think D. Winters and Jalen Graham are just there for depth, but you never know. The 49ers are really good at scouting linebacker. I'm really surprised that Marcelino McCrary-Ball didn't make the team. But I sort of forget if he's on the practice squad. I don't think he is. I think he might have. There's a chance that he went to another team already. So That was a guy that I think I told you a couple weeks ago, Mike, that the Raiders should keep an eye on in case the 49ers cut. So cornerbacks, we've got Charvarius Ward, Samuel Womack, Diamador Lenore, Ambry Thomas, and Isaiah Oliver. So Oliver, a lot of people were surprised and made the team because Oliver really struggled throughout the preseason, and Oliver was Steve Wilkes' guy. I think I don't necessarily know Oliver's contract specifics, but it seemed like they brought him in and they had the idea that Oliver was going to be the starting nickel, but I mean, he was okay in Atlanta. Like, I don't know if he was like really that special. I didn't really pay attention that much, but it seemed like he needed to, I mean, I guess I'll put this in a nice way. He's got to get used to the 49ers and the way they do things over here on defense. But it's kind of weird because he's had Steve Wilkes as a coach before. And, maybe Steve Wilkes is sort of trying to not change up a lot with the 49ers system. So maybe it is a slightly different system than Oliver has been used to in the past. And then Ambry Thomas made it. I think, he had a pretty solid preseason. And I expect Diamador Lenore to be the other starting cornerback opposite of Charvarius Ward. And we'll see with Womack. Talanoa Hufanga, for the safeties, Talanoa Hufanga, Tayshaun Gibson, George Odom, and Jair Brown. So I think I heard that Gibson might not be ready for week 1. So I fully expect Jair Brown to slide right into that role. Jair Brown was the 3rd round rookie, right, Mike?
Yes, he was your 3rd round pick.
Yeah, I know you thought he was a pretty good player, and it seemed like Jair Brown had a couple plays where he showed flashes in the preseason, and I'm just hoping for good solid depth. Because Gibson, I'm pretty confident that as long as, unless Jair Brown shows to be like a ball hawk and like, an all pro, I think Gibson has proven in the NFL for several years now that he just has he has an knack for getting turnovers. So, getting a lot of interceptions. I don't know the exact number, but Gibson, I think, is up there with turnovers at the safety position throughout his tenure in the NFL. So specialists, we got Jake Moody, Mitch Wishnowsky, and Tabor Pepper. Moody the kicker, Wishnowsky the punter, Pepper the long snapper, and that's about it. Yeah, hopefully Moody can be more consistent than he showed in the preseason, but we'll see. He's a rookie kicker. Harbaugh vouched for him when he was at Michigan, and I think that he got iced in the Raider game twice, and then he got hurt in the second game. But the 49ers might need to call Robbie Gould.
Yeah, we'll definitely see after week 1.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Shrey, I see your comment. We're going to get to it just a little bit later in the show. So, stay tuned. We appreciate you checking out the stream. Right now, I'm going to go over the 49ers team captains. So, Mike, you have the list, right? I think I remember the team captains, but I want to say it was Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, Eric Armstead, Fred Warner, and then two more. There's two more.
Everything you said is correct. The last two are George Kittle and Trent Williams.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, George Kittle and Trent Williams. Sorry, I didn't have it pulled up ahead of me. But, it's pretty self-explanatory, like with the starters. Like, I feel like the 49ers are all in with Purdy. And, although I've wanted them to be all in with Trey Lance in the past, Trey Lance is no longer with the team. Brock Purdy's here, and it seems like the whole team is behind him. And it seems like he's ready to roll. They trust him, and Purdy is going to. I think he's going to exceed at least the expectations of the NFL, because I want to say they rolled out a list of like ranking the starting quarterbacks, and I'm not sure who laid out this list, but Purdy was towards the bottom, if not 32nd. Which I find crazy, because last season he led the offense to like the highest efficiency in the NFL during his time playing. So it was like night and day, Purdy versus Jimmy Garoppolo in the Niners offense last year. But we'll get to the Niners practice squad. So let me stop sharing this, and I'm going to go ahead and share another screen of the practice squad players. So we've got on the defensive line, Alex Barrett, Marlon Davidson, and T.Y. McGill. And there might have been one more. No. Fullback, Jack Coletto. Wide receivers, we got Chris Conley and Tay Martin. I forgot to mention it, but I feel like both those receivers actually played pretty well in the preseason. But on a stacked team like the 49ers, there's just like there is no room to be able to stash these players on the roster. And then luckily they were able to make it to the practice squad. Also Willie Snead, but Willie Snead is like more of a veteran, and Isaiah Winstead, he's a rookie, but he went undrafted, so I don't think he got like a lot of looks out of a lot of teams, but he is like a big body receiver who the 49ers, I don't know if they'll ever be able to give him a chance just with how deep the wide receiver room, has turned out to be. But, he's a player that I've seen a couple, plays on social media that he's made, and he just looks like a guy like, I'm trying to think of like, tall receivers in the past who have just like, you've been able to throw it up to them and they can make something happen. That's sort of the vibe that I got from Winstead just from watching the videos. But, at the NFL level, it takes more than just size, right?
Yeah. Maybe like a Tyrell Williams with the Raiders and the Chargers, Yeah.
So I'm just going to go over the remaining names that I didn't name off before. Tight end Troy Fumagalli, offensive lineman Alfredo Gutierrez, the guy that I think the 49ers are just keeping for marketing reasons, unfortunately. Running back Brian Hill, cornerback Quantrez Knight. I was actually a little surprised that he didn't make the team. Offensive lineman Corey Luciano, linebacker Curtis Robinson, and cornerback Trey Swilling, and offensive lineman Leroy Watson IV. So that's the practice squad. And, I don't know if you have any thoughts about, maybe the 49ers depth chart, Mike, but, anything glaring about maybe the captains or anything? Any thoughts?
Well, I mean, as far as the captains, the glaring omission is Nick Bosa, but that makes sense because he's been missing this whole camp. Then again, I mean, we'll get to the Raiders, but they voted Josh Jacobs a captain. So I don't know. I figured no matter what, Nick Bosa will end up being a captain by the end of the season. So as far as the roster, I mean, keeping 4 tight ends is pretty interesting. I didn't notice any like in previous episodes I had been kind of curious, or I guess my question for the Niners was like, do they have a depth issue? But I mean, looking at the depth, like I don't think it's that bad. I think they have players at many positions that can step up if needed. I think at corner they have some guys. At safety they have, like you said, Jair Brown. Um, like you said, the offensive line should get a little better. And personally, I think John Feliciano is a very nice guy to have because he can go and play different positions for you on the interior, you know. So
Mhm.
he's a good backup to have. Um, and then you have a lot of running back depth, you know.
Yeah.
So
I I feel like any running back on this team could go somewhere else and make an impact.
for sure that, but also just this offensive scheme that Shanahan runs, like it's always a run heavy team, you know. So they could get out to a big lead, and then McCaffrey can kind of chill out, and they can put in Jordan Mason, or I'm forgetting the guy's name that was the third round pick a year ago or whatever.
Ty
And
Davis
or
Price.
yeah, or of course Elijah Mitchell if he's not injured, you know. So
Yeah, but we know Shanahan. He doesn't take the foot off the gas pedal, and I don't really think that he sort of believes in garbage time because he doesn't. I feel like where he can grow as a coach is assessing risk and reward because the 49ers were blowing out Detroit in week 1 a couple of years ago when it was Dan Campbell's first year as a head coach. And
mm,
granted the Lions started to come back, but it was like, the Niners had to fumble and really like sort of cough up the game a little bit. But you lose your top corner that year in Jason Verrett by keeping him out there for too long. Like it was like
yeah,
the score was like they were up by like 3 touchdowns or something, like going into the fourth quarter.
yeah.
Um,
That reminds me of the Colts game for Derek Carr when he fractured his fibula. It was like the game was over. You know, that's the worst feeling is when the game's over and somebody gets a major injury.